My name's David Franklin. I'm with Argonaut, who are one of the key sponsors here. So I'd just like to thank you for attending the conference. The first presentation is K2O Potash. It'll be presented by Michael Beer, who's the Executive Chairman. But firstly, some brief facts about Poland. So K2O Potash is in Poland. Poland is the largest mining country in Europe, dominating in copper and coking coal with a strong oil and gas sector. It has not produced potash in the past 50 years in spite of being built on salt. But Poland lies immediately west of Ukraine. It's a member of NATO. And I'd like to introduce Michael Beer to give a summary of the project. Michael, over to you.
Thanks very much, David, and welcome everybody. Thank you. And also my shareholders in Australia who hopefully are watching this via live streaming as well. Thank you for being here. One thing I wanted to start with was the previous, one of the previous speakers, Kaiman from Western Mines, is sharing a booth with me. So K2O and Western Mines are sharing a booth. And what he didn't really say to you is yesterday morning, his share price was 11 cents and today it's 44. So that is a 400% increase in one day. He gave an excellent speech, but I don't think he made that clear. But I would stress to you that I think K2O has the same sort of upside as Western Mines does. So we must have the same sort of luck. So here I go. We had a vision a year ago, we K2O Potash and some of the other people that I'm involved with are here in the audience, to establish a potash company. For those who don't know, potash is a fertilizer, a very important agricultural fertilizer for increasing food yields, crop yields. We believe it's critical for the global food supply. Early last year, we raised approximately $1 million. We would be, without doubt, the smallest company in this conference by a long way. In terms of the number of shares on issue, 14.6 million at a 10 cent, we've so far, we say we're worth $1 million, which is crazy. So Poland, you know where it is, and the map there shows that. The key feature is a geological feature, which I won't bore you with other than to say that all the red and the blue there that starts actually on the east coast of the UK and runs all the way down into the Ukraine to the east of Poland is very, very significant hosting of potash. And Germany, which is just to the east of Poland, has been a big producer of potash for the last 100 years. Just talking about our projects. So there's a bigger map of Poland, with Germany on the eastern side of us. Everybody probably knows their geography well. We have two projects in the east, in the west of Poland. You can see them there marked numbers 1 and 2, and you can see our third project is marked number 3 in the north. They are significant potash projects, and we've made application for these tenements. They'll be granted next month, and I'll be in Poland next month to sign off on those tenements. Potash, for those who don't know, looks like in its rock form underground as those two rocks you can see there. They're beautiful colors. It's extraordinary though how potash actually dissolves, some potash, all of the potash we own, dissolves very effectively in hot water. So I'm going to first of all talk to you about solution mining, which is a very attractive way of producing potash without having to build what BHP is planning to do, build a huge underground mine in Jansen and Saskatchewan in Canada. We can actually produce from surface. And so if you look at the arrows there, perhaps it's a bit complicated, but if you look at the right-hand arrow there, the first thing we would do is an initial well on the right-hand side, a vertical well, blue line up the top. And then the potash is typically found in horizontal structures around 1,000 meters below the surface. We will drill a horizontal well, as you can see there, and then the first red line that you can see there. So you've got a blue line going down, which is a 1,000-meter hole. You've got a horizontal hole right through the seam, the potash seam, and then you have another hole. And what we do is we flush from the right-hand side well, hot water down through that 1,000 meters, across through the potash, and then pump it to the surface. So on surface, we recovered a brine. And then we have a plant on surface that converts that brine into granulated potash. So it's a very, very elegant system. As I say, it requires strata-bound seams of potash. At my booth, I've actually got samples of that, and if you were interested, I could show you those samples at the booth. It's a very quick system. It means that you can actually get to production years earlier than if you were building an underground mine. And it's certainly, in terms of our OPEX and CAPEX, it's a much cheaper system. So we're very pleased that our potash in Poland is amenable to solution mining. So that's the first really important point. This is a very important chart. It's important because first of all, it shows our 3 projects. And this is actually available in the booth as well if you're looking for that presentation. The first 2 projects we've applied for. The key information on that slide is the number of wells. So there is a lot of historical wells drilled that we actually have all the data for in terms of the potash in those particular projects. And probably the most important column on that page is the one right in the middle, where the Polish Geological Survey have estimated in recent years resources of the order of, I stress they're not JORC, but they will be once we've done some drilling of our own, resources 337,556,293, they all add up to about 1.2 billion tonnes of potash, which is, I can assure you, a lot of potash. People probably don't know that the price of potash today is around $500 or $600 US. Let's call it 500. So if you're producing 1 million tonnes of potash, which would be a very small project, you're producing revenue of $500 million. Your costs are going to be about $200 million. So there's significant margins in this sort of business. But this is very much a big company play, and we're a tiny company. We're the smallest company here. However, what we plan to, what the numbers show us is that in terms of both NPV and IRR, we are going to raise $25 million from the private equity capital market as soon as the tenements are granted. We're talking to global players about the funding of that first 25 million. And then in year 3, we'll raise another 25 million through that same group. And I've got lots of interest from the big players. So really the purpose to be here today and just talk to you is no one has ever heard of K2O potash before. No one's aware that potash exists in Poland. And I'm simply just giving audiences the opportunity now to understand, wow, this is actually sort of significant. So big NPVs, big IRRs. I know everybody yawns about them because it depends on your assumption set, but nevertheless, these numbers are very significant and real. Quick snapshot. So we started ourselves in really a year ago. We raised a little bit of money, $1 million. We've still got plenty of that left. We are now in the process now of seeking approval for our tenements. And so that is the key critical thing is to get the tenements granted to us from the Polish ministry. We've already, so on this terms of the work program, we are now in that number 1 bubble. We'll be doing some further analysis of 3D seismic, which exists. And then we'll start drilling. And so that solution mining chart I showed you, we will be drilling a number of wells over a period, well, continuously. We would expect to be producing potash within 2 years in significant value. So this is going to be a very fast development. In terms of the assets, they are scalable. We can start small, we can get bigger. We'll have a big brother who's funding the projects for us, which means that we will be working very hard on behalf of all of our shareholders. We're very close to markets. It's interesting that Europe is net deficient in muriate of potash. So a producer in Poland will be a very elegant solution to sourcing the potash needs of European countries. There is little barrier to entry for ourselves. Certainly environmentally, we are fortunate that our potash is such that we actually are able to produce using solution mining. I won't dwell on this, my own background's there. Karen Lloyd is a very important lady in Perth, consulting engineer, geologist, working with very big clients, very experienced lady, and we're very lucky to have Karen. And Frank is in the room with me. He's basically the visionary who came up with the idea of moving to Poland to look for potash. And it's turned out to be a very good decision because of what we now know and what we actually now own. Even more importantly, though, is Michał Zrecki, who is a Polish country manager who'll become a director once we've got the tenements. He is a geologist. He's an oil and gas geologist. He's a dynamic man who has the most impeccable contacts in Poland with both the government geological people and within the engineering side of things. So this will be very much staffed by Polish people. Chris Gilchrist is known around the world as a superstar consultant. He's 70 years old. He is highly respected, and Urkus Plan are the world's leading consultants in this field, and we're very close to them. A simple little chart that corporate people like to see. We've set up all the subsidiaries for the 3 different projects there. It's not easy setting things up in Poland. We've done all that. They've got all their bank accounts, etc. Just briefly on fiscal regime in Poland, very attractive. The cost of actually paying for your exploration licenses is tiny. If you've got 100 square kilometres and you're paying $30 per square kilometre, you're paying $3,000 a year for your rent of the tenement. So it's tiny, very, very small. There are royalties when one becomes a producer. There's a lot of information there, but I just want to spend have I got another minute or two? Okay. This is really just a summary of just what is an amazing opportunity. First of all, no one disagrees that MOP, muriate of potash generally is critical for increasing agricultural crop yields. Every farmer in the world would say that. Malaysian palm oil plants, etc., they all love potash. Poland has huge unmined potash resources, and I don't have time in this speech to say why, because it just doesn't really make sense that they would still be sitting in the ground and haven't been touched for 60 years. Nothing has been done on potash in Poland for 60 years, which is just amazing. But Poland is the largest mining company in Europe, and that's also a surprise to most people, with huge coking coal and thermal coal deposits and production, huge copper, significant salt development, and I've been 700 meters underground in the biggest salt mine in Poland, and it's just extraordinary how much salt exists underground, and also a very vibrant oil and gas industry. Europe is a net importer of potash, which is a great advantage for K2O and where we are. Transport, this is a bulk commodity. Potash is a bulk commodity like iron ore, etc. So your transport logistics are critical, and ours are just impeccable because we're so close to the rest of Europe and we can move product. We actually would hope that when this terrible war ends with Ukraine, they're unlikely to be buying their potash from Belarus and Russia, who are big producers. We would hope that we could become their supplier of choice in a couple of years' time. Our tenements are about to be granted. Our tenements are amenable to solution mining, the point that I made earlier, which is a terrific way of production. Solution mining is quicker, safer, with lower OPEX and CAPEX. So that's a wonderful opportunity for us. We'll be seeking, as I said, private equity, because if I was to list this company in Australia, we could only raise probably 10 million Aussie dollars most. We need $40 million for our first 2 years. So that's why, and also because this is a big company game, I'm talking to the biggest players in the world in terms of whether they might be interested to sort of join us in this project. We're working very hard on very detailed business plans, as one should when they're about to embark on such an important set of activities. And for anybody who's interested, we'd love to talk to you in our booth when we're completed. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks very much for that, Michael. Yeah. Our next presentation is from NEXT-ChemX Corporation. We'll be hearing from Mr. Benton Wilcoxon, who's the Chief Executive Officer. NEXT-ChemX has developed an energy efficient and environmentally friendly direct lithium extraction technology. Its founder and CEO is here to present its technology along with Clontarf Energy PLC, which it joined to provide technology for its Bolivia brine projects. So please welcome Benton Wilcoxon.
Hello. Thank you for coming and listening to our story. We are not a mining operation. We are a chemical processing and material science company. And we took an interest in lithium. We are in the United States, so we have to have this little disclaimer here. And we are basically using a novel ion targeting system with a hollow fiber membrane so that we can extract in a very novel way all the different targeted elements, whether it's magnesium, calcium, or lithium, or potassium, etc. we mimic biophysical processes that are found in nature. And those processes are very similar to a dialysis kidney type thing, which are in all mammals, where the two substances don't actually touch each other. So only the ions cross the barrier and no other contact is made between the extractant and the original brine solution or leach solution, as long as it's a liquid. We come from a background of material science and are very experienced in scandium extraction from tailings as well as from uranium tailings. And we're experienced with taking out trace elements of thorium, uranium, etc., in addition to the scandium. We're experienced in the development of actual metal alloys from there. So we go all the way to a finished type product. We also have developed extraction, interesting from the speech a little earlier, solution mining in Africa for carnallite, which we actually pumped seawater down into the reservoirs and took them up and then separated out the magnesium and potassium. We did this about 20 years ago. So we are actually experienced in several different aspects of process of extraction. The new one is really this membrane technology, which we're adapting for lithium, which was never done. We did it in copper. I did it in strontium for nuclear waste and cesium. We can certainly do it in nickel and cobalt and so on, quite easy. No one had thought of lithium. Our scientists never apparently reads the news and realized the fad of lithium. Basically, he was studying for over 20 years in these biological systems and membranes that exist in nature, which are very inherently efficient. We don't use any temperature. We don't use any pressure like you would in a osmosis system where you have a several bar of pressure, and nothing is actually mixed. Basically, only the ions are crossing the barrier due to a change in pH, a slight change in pH. The process is continuous and not a batch process. We believe it's very suitable for lithium extraction. This is a small plant from years ago when we did copper from leach solutions, which in a continuous one pass could take the 100 grams per liter copper etching solution to 10 times the concentration and precipitate out copper sulfate crystals. So the liquid feed is critical. Doesn't matter really what the concentration is. It can be very low concentration and it can be higher concentration. So we don't need any pre-concentration. We can target almost any ion, no pressure, no temperature, and minimal energy use since there's no pressure and temperature. Very little water consumption because the brine has plenty of water in it, in itself, and therefore it's continuous and, as we would say, more environmentally friendly. The commercial pilot plant operational and testing in this quarter in Austin, Texas. We have smaller laboratory and bench systems that have been going on for the last year and a half. And now we're ready in the commercial systems, which can pump through tons of brine at a time. I don't need to tell you about lithium. I think you've been hearing plenty about the tremendous demand for lithium. The current processes require typically evaporation, which is not very time efficient, and it's also environmentally difficult. And in some areas, they're actually making a lot of restrictions. Therefore, we believe everyone is looking for direct lithium extraction. In this case, we're looking for places and customers, meaning other mining operations, which need to find this technology. One such one is Clontarf Energy PLC, has relationships in Bolivia and has a strong track record there in previous projects. So we're looking with them. We recently partnered to supply our ion targeting direct extraction technology there. so that we could prove we'll have samples sent up from South America to our facility, some 20-foot containers of brines, and therefore they will, from there we will test and work out the economic model. Since each brine has a different composition, we have to study first taking out magnesium in different concentrations. We need to look at how many module systems we need for it, as well as then taking out calcium. Then you go to lithium, then you can go on to potassium. If you want to, you can go all the way to take out the salt if you actually need to have agricultural water. Depends on the project and what the customer wants. The current solutions for DLE, people keep asking, why do you think you can do this when no one really has a commercial DLE system out there except in test cases? And usually it's a combination of several technologies, not just one particular technology. So in this particular case, usually it's some type of sorption, adsorption or absorption. It's ion exchange or solvent extraction. In these cases, they're batch processes, and batch processes are always more expensive and a little clumsy to operate. The other ones under development, which we don't believe are very advanced at all, are the metal organic framework concepts and the various nanochannel membranes, which in theory work very, very well in the lab, but they do clog easily with larger ions. The nanofiltration, of course, is not very selective. So to date, we have not seen any single DLE technology which can go from start to finish from a raw brine all the way to extracting the lithium. Most of them do this combination. We believe that our systems are really 100% effective in doing this. What we don't know is the economics that can be done, which we can't tell until we get the customer's particular composition of brine. Then we can do precise analysis of the OpEx, and from that we can calculate the CapEx that's required to achieve the extraction. We also, it comes from another technology which was developed for bio oils and taking glycerides out of biodiesels and biofuels. It's the same system, just a little different feedstock in which we can remove the fatty acids very, very fast in a continuous process, rather than the mixer settler concept, which you use to refine vegetable oils and to attempt to take out the glycerides from the biodiesel and biofuels. We also can remove radioactive elements, and so we have a part of the company that will do that. And then, of course, we can look at extractions of the base metals of the copper, nickel, cobalt, magnesium, calcium, etc. We believe that in some cases, for example, in Bolivia, there's huge concentration of magnesium compared to the lithium. But this is actually a pretty valuable element. If we take it out, it probably offsets a significant portion of the cost of the operation. So instead of it being a negative, it probably could turn into a positive as well. This is our team, and you can find information basically on our website, which you'll see. The key thing really is that it's very novel. It's a proprietary and patented technology, quite environmentally friendly, and it's a total vertical integration. We will make our own special fibers. They're custom made. They don't exist in the market in this particular form that we use. We have a highly rated scientific and engineering team that we've used some of these members for over 30 years, actually 20 years in the processes of our various material processes. The commercial pilot plant should be up this quarter and ready to demonstrate to any particular customer who has brine, or could be a leach solution, as long as it's been converted to a liquid from a mining operation, or it could be a recycling of batteries. It's very simple to then leach the elements and then subject them to a simple extraction process using these membranes. basically, this is our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benton. I think it's an effective DLE technology is going to be really critical if supply is going to ramp up to meet the demand in the lithium market. So we'll watch with interest. Our next presentation is Krakatoa Resources. I'd like to introduce Mark Major, the Chief Executive Officer. Krakatoa is an emerging critical metals explorer who is successfully progressing a diverse portfolio of rare earth and specialty metals projects in Tier 1 mining jurisdictions. The company had a very successful 2022 with completion of 2 maiden resources and is now looking to further these projects as well as continue a discovery focus. So please welcome Mark Major.
Thank you. And thanks to those people who tuned in online. Thanks very much. Look, I just want to really give you a good overview of what the company is, our flagship project, and just give you an idea of where our value propositions are for all those tuned shareholders and for those people who want to get into the rare earth space in the early age. So typical disclaimer, please read carefully. Okay, Krakatoa. Krakatoa has been around for about 10 years, but in the last few years, so I guess in 2019, we took the direction that we wanted to focus into the rare earth space. As part of this, we pegged a whole lot of ground up in Western Australia because we believe that the commodity cycle is happening and the rare earths are going to become a key focus going forward. So why are we focusing there? We're actually focusing on the high value critical metals associated with rare earths and also with rubidium and lithium and cesium and all those other pegmatite systems as well. But I'm not here to talk about the pegmatites. I'm actually here to talk about the rare earths. So we believe we've got the right commodities at the right time, as well as the right strategy going forward. Our key here is our flagship project, which is the Mount Clair, where we've actually, in this time last year, we made the actual discovery of the rare earths. So in a 12 months time, we've then come out with a resource, and we've also undertaken some critical metallurgical test work. So we're starting to de-risk the project. I'll talk a bit more on that. Plus also, hopefully, if we get time, I'll be able to talk to you about King Tamba. It's another project that we have also, and why the company basically is going to have a strong news flow going into this year. So multi-commodity project portfolio, that's exactly what we've got. We've got 3 projects within the Yilgarn, 2 of them which I've already mentioned, Mount Clair and King Tamba, and they will be the focus of this talk. We also have a series of projects in the Lachlan Fold Belt over in New South Wales. So a bit of a snapshot on the company. We're listed on the ASX under the code KTA. We've been around for 10 years and got 345 million shares on issue. Current market cap is around about 10 mil. This time last year, it was sitting probably around 40 mil. Even though we've kicked all these goals, it's the sign of the markets. Currently, we've got about $1 million in the bank, so obviously a great EV. So the board's made up of 3 directors here, Colin Locke, Dave Palumbo, Tim Hogan, and myself as the CEO. I won't go too much into this ESG, but I just will mention that ESG is obviously a key thing going forward, especially as you go through the progression of the development curve. You have to have these credentials in place. We've taken a strategic slant on that this year, and we actually are implementing all these frameworks, basically to consider our future developments into this sector. So Mount Clair. As you can see in this photo here, just to give you a bit of an idea of what we're talking about here. Now, this is a clay-hosted rare earth deposit that we've located. That's me on a quad bike at the bottom there, and that's about a 22, 24 metre sort of height up to the top of that cliff. Now, we call these things breakaways in Australia. As you can see on the top of that, there's a bit of a lateritic cap. It's a bit of hard ferruginous surface, and then underneath that, you start to see all the white areas. That's the saprolite clays. Where that quad bike is, there's about another 6 metre of clay below that, which is all high grade rare earth. Our resource actually stops at the boundary of that breakaway. So we drilled on top of that breakaway. Okay, so that's all historical regolith land. So where I'm sitting there on the bike, that's not actually in the resource. So just to put it into picture and give you a bit of an idea on the map, you can see where Mount Clear is positioned actually near Meekatharra, or sort of between Meekatharra and Carnarvon, at the top end of the Yilgarn to Creighton. Where the tower project is, and that's the main project that we're focusing on, that's where our resource was discovered in April last year. We're focusing all our efforts into that zone at the moment. We've got a large exploration tonnage there, which is up to over 400 to 500 million tonnes at a higher grade of around 800 on average parts per million total rare earths. We believe there's a great big upside in this area as well. That tower zone, as you can see, that little insert there on that diagram is just one little dot. The actual tenements that we own is over 2,400 square kilometres. Our greenfields exploration work that we did initially back in the early 2020, 2021 was all associated about greenfields exploration, screen sediment mapping, going through the process. We've identified other areas in there which we want to go through and actually strategically drill, and that will all happen probably later in this year. But what we did is we focused on the tower area, and the reason is tower is called tower because there is an old communications tower situated there, which allowed us to be able to drive a drill rig in there without having to scrape up any dirt or anything like that. So in essence, we haven't actually made a drill pad in this whole area, and we've drilled over nearly 200 holes to put into this resource. So to talk about the resource, we've got 60% of it into the inferred category, 40% in indicated. Mineralization starts at surface in most areas. If not, the strip ratios are going to be very, very low. Definitely probably around that 0.5 to 0.7 sort of ratio. And in some areas, we've got rare earths up to 53 meters. So as a clay hosted resource goes, 840 ppm is quite good. Look, just that's comparable. IXR, who probably a lot of people are familiar with, their average grade is around 600, 640. So, but it's not about the total rare earths, it's about what rare earths you've got in there, and the key rare earths that make up about 30% of what we need. They're the payable rare earths. So the big bright sky in this as well is that there is a larger exploration target outside of this area. So if you look at this map here, you can see the white light round bit slightly hatched areas. Those areas there are the exploration target. The green area there is the inferred, or indicated, sorry, and the yellow is the inferred resource that we have. What we've also been able to achieve over the course of, well, after we discovered this, and we quickly then developed a few holes and brought that into some metallurgical test work. Obviously, we have to de-risk all these things as we go through. So the idea was, we'll test this stuff, give it a big outlay and see where it ends up. And what we're able to achieve is to basically pull back, and we got 64% to, well, let's say 60% neodymium, praseodymium. They're the key payable rare earths that we have at the moment in this project. So this is very comparable to what other global significant clay hosted rare earth companies have been able to produce. A lot of them are actually going to a lower range just for a balancing act. But our mineralogy, everything in here is giving us, I guess, a pathway forward, looking at the process. So what we're going to be undertaking this year is obviously we'll be refining and improving our metallurgical process, and obviously drilling out more of this exploration target area. We may find a better area to start with, higher grades. We're also going to be looking at developing, potentially a bulk sampling facility that we can actually start to do some real in situ test work on. So exploration for 2023. As I just discussed, Tower Project is one of the key focuses there. We're going to expand that area, infill drilling, metallurgical sampling and testing. Outside of that, and obviously in the other 2,000 square kilometres that we have, we've got a lot of other targets out there that we want to go through and bring through this exploration chain. and we'll undertake a lot of geological work out there, which will mean boots on ground, basically. There's a lot of work to be done. We've also identified a lot of hotspots or areas where we believe there is a potential for hard rock rare earth sources. This area was once originally explored for kimberlites and diamonds, so carbonatites, and we know there's lamproites out there, so we're in the right place. BHP went through here in the 70s, and it was one of the main reasons that we actually pegged this ground, was because they found abundant monazite, which is a rare earth mineral, in the streams. So now we've got the right terrain, right geology. We're in the hunt for these hard rocks as well. Rare earths, why are we investing in rare earths? Well, I think that's pretty simple. The world needs them coming forward. It's probably the most critical of all raw minerals to come out. It's got the highest economic importance that I see out of all the critical minerals. And that's mainly due because of the high supply risks that are in the market. The supply is dominated by China, and obviously sovereign risk is huge, and all the governments really want to have key focus on developing these rare earth systems so that they can have proof of supply. And I guess the other key advantage here, and which we need to talk about, is why clays. Look, clays have their advantage. They are a lower grade than hard rock, as you expect. But in that, you also get the benefits that you do not have. You've got simple mining. It's as simple as it comes. No drill and blast. It's just all stripped. You're talking about clay. Okay, there's no radionuclides, which is usually around when you're associating with rare earths. That's a very common thing. Mother Nature's already broken those down for us. It's also environmentally friendly, or more environmentally friendly than our hard rock neighbours. And you're also talking about low CapExes and low OpExes. Okay, it's pretty much a dump leach sort of facility, or deabsorption facilities that you look at. Throw it there, take the liquid, reprocess that liquid, and make your con. So just to give you a bit of an idea of where we sit in the regime and why I guess our value proposition is quite significant. These are some of our peers that are listed on the ASX or TXX, and market cap comparisons, and pretty much where we're sitting in the project stage. Now, there is one group missing from there, which is IXR, and I actually had to take them out because they've actually completed a DFS very recently, and so therefore they're not supposedly a peer that we can be against. But you take into that and you think, okay, IXR now have 540 million tonnes at a grade of about 640 parts per million. Their market cap is around 120 million. They've also owned 60% of the project. Okay, now they're in Uganda, Krakatoa in Western Australia. We've got a 10 mil market cap. We're working towards our economic assessments now. We've de-risked the project so far, and we've got the potential to get up into that 500 million tonnes. We've also looked at our other peers here, which are Australian groups. Some have got resources, but we are probably one company that has a resource and have network that is recognised highly there, but we are undervalued. So there's your value. Other project, King Tamba. Look, I'm not going to have time really to talk about that today, but it is an LCT pegmatite system. It used to be Tantalum Australia's old mine. We picked this up and we've drilled successfully around the mine site, and we've come up with a resource very recently. Have a look online about that. It is a rubidium hosted resource, but there is also credits for other elements there. We still really haven't explored the extensions of this area. We'll undertake doing more of this work this year. Obviously, there's tantalum in the system as well as niobium and lithium. So we'll be looking forward to opening that up and exploring that further as we go. I'll just move on. We won't talk about our New South Wales projects, but they are there. Please have a look online. And yeah, if you've got any comments, come and see me in the booth. I'm there. So why Krakatoa? I guess we're well positioned for growth and success. You know, we're getting close to the bottom of the market. Over the course of the last 12 months, we've basically de-risked our projects a lot. We've actually kicked a lot of goals, and we're now on our road for pretty much moving into these economic assessment stages and de-risking a project further. Then we'll start advancing other stuff. We've also got the exploration upside. There's huge exploration upsides, as I alluded to earlier. So we look forward to sort of exploring that and hopefully finding more discoveries within 2023. That in line with our development pathway, I think you're looking at a very de-risked sort of value proposition when it comes to investments. So I'll leave you with that. But look, please come and see me at the booth if you've got any questions or any concerns, or hit me up online. Open to everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I must say it's good to see another development project in Western Australia. Outside China, there's not a lot of rare earths projects, but one place there is in Western Australia. We've got Linus and Aluka developing or already operating. So it's good pedigree. The next presentation is Aruma Resources. I'd like to introduce Glenn Grayson. So Glenn is an experienced goldfields geologist and newly appointed managing director. Aruma has 4 gold projects on major gold endowed structures in Australia's hotspots, namely the Pilbara, the Murchison and Salmon Gums. Aruma also has the advanced Mount Deans lithium project south of Norseman. So today, Glenn will detail the progress being made at these projects. So welcome, Glenn.
Well, thank you very much. So thank you for taking the time to come and listen to me today. Really excited to be here and tell you about what Aruma's been up to, the work that we've been doing, and where we plan on going. So big thank you to Stu and the Vertical Events team for putting this on as well. It really enables us, junior resource companies from Western Australia to come and show the people here what it is that we really do best, which is explore for ore bodies. So that's a usual disclaimer for an ASX listed company. Corporate snapshot. I really like this slide. It shows you that we haven't got a lot of shares on issue. There's only 157 million shares. We've got a good cash balance at the moment, 2.7. So we're well funded to move forward and explore. One of the things that does set Aruma apart a little bit in the West Australia junior resource sector is that R&D claim that we make. Over the 12 years of Aruma's existence, we've managed to get back $5.5 million. And in fact, in December last year, we had another $830,000 come back. So that's government money that returns back into our bank account, and we get to spend our money 1.4 times, and we spend it wisely into the ground. So our projects, you can see there, all in Western Australia. It is a really great place to work. The infrastructure we have just enables us to move forward and do the work as quickly as possible. Up to the north in the Pilbara, we've got gold and rare earth projects at Melrose and Saltwater. If you move down a bit further to the south of the state, we've got our Yilgarn gold projects. So my geos certainly like working on these projects. Nice, diverse projects that keep them excited and interested. But last year we added lithium into the mix, and that really got us noticed. So in total, we've got about 1,400 square kilometres of tenure across Western Australia. And last year, we drilled nearly 14,000 metres of RC. So we do spend the money in the ground quite well. So what sets us apart? It is that R&D claim that we have a model that we do work towards. We go and look for ground that fits our geological model, but it's not just that, it is ground that's really underexplored or hasn't been looked at all. Examples there, Mount Deans, tantalum-rich pegmatites outcropping, but were never sampled for lithium. Saltwater, some old local Indigenous friends up there were finding gold nuggets in the creek, but hadn't been drilled. And at Salmon Gums, it was always mapped incorrectly. It was mapped as not part of the Yilgarn, it was mapped as something else, and had essentially not been explored. I'll go into these three projects further on and highlight why I think that the Aruma is a great investment. So the first one's Mount Deans, and it's actually a little bit similar to the mineralogy that the previous presentation had. The good thing about Mount Deans, it's just south of Norseman. It's 200 kilometres from the deep sea port of Esperance, right on the highway. Infrastructure is fantastic. But as I said, the pegmatites were known, they outcrop. But the question was always, what's the lithium grades? And as you can see, the grades were quite good, up to 2% lithium oxide in some of the drilling. But along with the lithium, there is a whole other suite of elements that will all add value. And you can see there, we've got a really high grade rubidium, but we've also got cesium, we've got niobium, tantalum, tin, and potassium. And I guess we're starting to go down the process now of understanding the metallurgy and what it would look like. And we think that we can really add value out of all these additional elements. It is the lithium that is the target commodity and is what has got us all excited. But it is these other metals, which a lot of them are future facing, that are certainly can add value to the mix. So one of the interesting things about the Mount Deans pegmatites, the lithium, is lepidolite. So commonly in Western Australia, what gets mined and what gets explored for is spodumene. But what's happened in Western Australia is our Chinese friends have come in really early to projects that look to have spodumene and have signed up with offtake agreements. So what it means is everyone else who's coming in following has to go and look for another source of lithium. And Aruma is actually a fair way down that path within Western Australia, and we're getting contacted a fair bit from other overseas interested parties right now. So as you can see from that flow sheet, simple froth flotation will extract a lot of the elements there, the cesium, potassium, rubidium, lithium, and niobium. And then another extra step of the graphite separation will get the tin and tantalum out, and all these add exceptional value. So I'll move on another 80 kilometres down the road from Norseman is Salmon Gums. Really underexplored part of Western Australia. So as you can see on that slide there, not sure if I've got a pointer, but the top fault, the Cundalee fault, that was always mapped as the southernmost extension of the Yilgarn greenstones. In Western Australia, the Yilgarn greenstones is what hosts a lot of the tier 1 ore bodies further north. Super Pit is an example. So this area was really underexplored. A couple of years ago, a company called Pantoro was success in exploring south of that Cundalee fault at Scotia. They're currently mining their ore body there with their 500,000 ounce reserves and upwards of 2 million ounces of resource. And we followed the stratigraphy south to Salmon Gums, which was vacant. We pegged it based on the fact that we thought we had that fit our geological model, and it was really underexplored. So we went in last year and did some drilling really successfully. Had grades 4 metres at 4 at the bottom of the hole, but 5 metres at 50 was the standout. And if you followed the junior gold scene last year, it didn't seem to matter how good a drill hole you announced. Your share price really didn't move too much. So that didn't get a lot of attention last year. We've gone in now, we're currently drilling at these two prospects, Thistle and Iris currently. We've got a 6,000 metre RC program that we're currently doing. So we'll have some news flow in the near term. But one of the key things that the drilling last year showed us is that when we pegged the ground, we thought we were dealing with quite a narrow greenstone belt down there. We thought it was about 800 metres wide. We've got 26 kilometres of strike, so we thought we were dealing with a target area of about 15 square K. But the drilling last year showed us that it's not 800 metres wide, it's probably in greater than 3.5 kilometres wide. So we've gone from a 15 square K target to a 75 square K target. And when we've had really early success really quickly with the 5 at 50, the potential for salmon gums could be huge. So we are a future facing commodities conference, but I had to tell you about salmon gums. So then if we move to the north of the state, up in the Pilbara, I've got two projects up there. Melrose is a gold project. Saltwater is the gold and rare earths project. That slide shows you the Nanjalgardi Fault, which is a major controlling structure of gold mineralisation in the area. If you followed the resource scene recently, there's been some really big discoveries up in the Pilbara. De Grey's 10 million ounce Molina deposit, but just along the Nanjalgardi Fault, there's good 5 million ounce corridor. So the potential for a discovery, a greenfields camp discovery is quite large. But if I zoom into saltwater, the potential becomes apparent. So 400 square kilometres of tenure there, really remote. We pegged it because that's the saltwater target there. An old friend had been finding nuggets in the creeks. So we went in there with our gold model. Research showed us that at Sirius and Levanto 10 or 12 years ago, looking for uranium, some really high grade rare earth samples were taken. More recently, our friends at Dreadnought have pegged all around us. They did some sampling last year, come up with some really nice gold samples. So that monster numbers there were from them, but they also had some really nice rare earth values come out. So we're really excited about this as a rare earth play, but there's also, as you can see, 3% copper in some samples. One of the things I like about Monster is when you're getting 3% antimony, you know you're in a big system for gold and other metals. So that's really exciting. I was up there in December driving around. We went to this Sirius and Levanto areas to have a look at what the rocks actually were. And what we found was it was a black manganese ironstone rock. The day before, we'd been going to the saltwater to look for the gold. And what we found was also this black manganese ironstone rock. The following day, we drove to Nobby's and we're driving around there. This black manganese ironstone rock was evident there as well. Come back to Perth and plot it all up. And all these prospects sit very close to a major unconformity there, which is the Bresnahan group above the Waialua group, which on that map there sort of is represented by the close to that red line. Of that red line, we've got about 80 kilometres of strike on our tenements that we're going to go and prospect for. So the upside's huge here. So we're going with an unconformity model for the mineralisation, which it does fit the rare earths, but it also fits the gold and base metals model, which is the hydrothermal solutions, getting metals out of the sedimentary pile. It gets trapped by the unconformity above. It finds something to react with and deposit. So that's our model that we're going looking for. And I've got a couple of pictures here just to show you the sort of area we're dealing with. That picture there is 160 kilometres from Paraburdoo, but amazingly, you get perfect phone reception. So the unique treats you get working in Western Australia. That there is an erosional surface. If then that got changed to a depositional surface, that surface there would become an unconformity. So that gives you an idea of the geology we're looking for. And that's the kind of reasons you love exploring in the Pilbara. There's some pretty spectacular countryside. So saltwater is a bit of a unicorn, I think. The potential is phenomenal. So I'll wrap it up there, but the highlights, I think the important take homes for you as potential investors is our metrics. We've got a strong cash balance, so our exploration projects are well funded, which leads into drilling. We have real news flow. We're out there identifying targets. We're doing what exploration companies should do, which is coming up with targets and then testing them. We've been successful. So Mount Deans has been progressing really nicely. Salmon gums has been successful, and we're certainly going to have a good crack at saltwater. New MD appointed, so I come on earlier this year, and I'm certainly excited by Aruma's projects. I'm a geologist. I've been around for a long time. I've seen some pretty good projects, and I'm really excited by what we have with Aruma. We've got some in-house expertise, so the R&D and the geology model is a way of thinking a little bit outside the box, and that's certainly paying dividends. We're picking ground that has untapped potential, and we spend our money 1.4 times, so we certainly get our value there. So that's all I've got to talk about with Aruma. So thank you for spending the time listening to me. You know, I often say that to invest in a junior explorer, you've got to be a bit of a gambler. I think we look pretty good. So please come and talk to me at my booth. I'm at booth 70, and I'd like to have a chat. So last thing I'd like to leave you with is Aruma. So what Aruma means, that's Aboriginal, which means happy. So come and invest in us. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. I think it's a good time to be looking for lithium and gold, in a portfolio, and it's worth noting that I think 50% of the world's lithium comes from Western Australia, where these guys are looking, and also a major producer of gold. So and the gold price just kicked up over $2,000 an ounce. In Australian dollar terms, just over $3,000 an ounce. So again, a good time to be looking at that. The next presentation is Strategic Energy Resources. And we'll be hearing from Dr. David Detata. Strategic is an Australian junior explorer that's looking deep undercover and being followed by the majors into greenfield terrains in search of the next major mineral discovery. So please welcome David to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, David. It's great to be part of what is the first Resource Connect Asia conference, and I hope there's plenty more to come. So as David's already said, I've been the Managing Director of Strategic Energy Resources for 2 years now. And I can tell you now, we are doing things differently. We are one of the most exciting junior exploration companies on the ASX. We have a clear strategy, which we're going to point you through today as part of our project overview. And by the end of it, I can guarantee you're all thinking these guys are honestly doing something different. So I'll start with our vision. Our vision, big picture, we want to be leaders in undercover exploration. I know it's a risk. It's ballsy, I get it, but with risk, there is reward. Distilling that down, our goal is the definition of tier 1 nickel, copper, gold projects across Australia. We're Australian focused. And it is a strategic goal, but it's also one that the majors are doing. And we know that because they follow us where we go around the country. If we take a greenfields position in New South Wales, they're there. In Queensland, they're there. So we know the majors have got their eye on us. And we like to think it's because we do things different. We take a strategic, science-driven approach to exploration. And you'll note throughout our presentation how I lean back on that science greenfields theme. Capital structure and corporate overview. We are fortunate that we have a board and shareholders that believe in science-driven exploration and greenfields. Share price is less than what it probably should be, but you'll also notice that our major shareholders are strong supporters, but are also heavily invested in the structure moving forward. You'll see an overview of our projects up there on your right. These projects all have a common theme, and I'll work you through what exactly that theme is as we move forward. Right, let's have a look at our strategy. This is what underpins everything we do at SCR and is the reason our current shareholders are in the game and our directors are aligned with what we're currently trying to do. We're science-driven, big picture sort of stuff. We'd look at targeting areas undercover throughout Australia that are along the same mineralized terrains as known deposits. We think about Ernest Henry, known copper gold mine. We head undercover where things get difficult, where there's less players. That's where we find ourselves. So we're targeting tier 1 nickel, copper, gold discoveries. We then take those project areas, get as much ground as we can, and then we go about uncovering what's actually there. Because in these areas that we're targeting, they're greenfields, so there's limited drilling, limited geophysics, high risk. So we're trying to then create a picture of what actually happens at depth. And once we start creating that picture, we understand a little bit more about what's happening. We can define our targets up, and that's where we start to see majors coming in and around us. But while we're doing all of this, we're active, very proactive in chasing government grants because we understand the risks associated with greenfields research. And we want to get as much money from the government in doing so as possible. We've been very successful. Last week, we managed to tick over our 8th co-funded grant to drill a project in Queensland. We'll talk about that project a little bit more. Unashamedly, we understand the risks. And we know that deep drilling, so plus 600-700 meters, is very expensive and something that not many juniors are ever going to be willing to undertake. So in doing so, we bring in strategic partners where we can to offset those deep exploration drill holes. So we want to know as much as we can about our project from surface, and then when it gets to the expensive drilling stuff, bring in a major. And the strategy is paying off. I'm going to give you 2 examples of what we've done to allow us to actually move through the identification phase right through the majors coming in on board. This is our first project, southern end of the Gawler Craton. When we had this project, we're all alone. You'll see us in the small tenement down the bottom. That's where we were. We were very excited when FMG came in and started to peg, as you can see, all their tenements all the way up to some of the major mines. There's Olympic Dam up there. We've got us very interested. Wasn't long before they approached us, and you can see what happens up here. JV was formed. There's a geophysics program that's been completed this year. We're hopeful that it'll get on ground and drill our targets this year with enough drilling involved to understand at that point whether we go down to dilution or we stay in the game with the 20%. As part of assessing these big data sets that we do across Australia, we uncovered some projects that are right within 20 kilometres of the Operation Cow Gold Mine. You'll see the 2 tenements up there. This was a competitive process where we outbid other explorers to get hold of this ground. And as soon as we did, it was not long at all before we had Evolution talking to us and trying to understand how we got the project to start with, but whether or not they could option back in. And they did very quickly. We signed an option deal that returned some cash to the company with immediate payoff should they go ahead and exercise the option. Unfortunately, the weather events across New South Wales meant that Lake Cow was a bit bigger than it is in this project. This photo up here covered our Eastern Cow tenement, was underwater. They gave back the tenements. Understandable, it's pretty hard to explore across a lake. So from there, we wait for those guys to run through a geophysics program. We're aware that the gravity program has just finished. The next step is drilling. So what I've just shown you is 2 projects, 2 majors, both possibly doing drilling this year on our ground, costing us nothing. That's the strategy. So this is our flagship asset, and the one I'm going to spend the most amount of time on today. 2 exploration plays north of Mount Isa and Concurry. And you can see some of the mineral systems and some of the projects and operating mines already up there on the screen. So when I say undercover, it's where the shaded color gets lighter. So in the shaded color, things are at surface or close to it, it's easy. Where that color disappears, it gets deeper, it gets difficult. That's our search space. First of all, Kenobi project. We have 1,800 kilometers north of Evolution Mining's Ernest Henry. Same package of rocks, 140 kilometers north. Significantly underexplored. Minimal drilling data, minimal geophysics data when we took on the project. We're systematically exploring it, uncovering what's actually happening at depth. Second project is Isa North. We have 900 square kilometers of that project. Again, take the Mount Gordon Fault, walk 100 kilometers north. It gets difficult, it gets deep, no competitors. That's where we are. That's where we are. And that was a bit more interesting, and I'll touch on that one in a second. So first one, Kenobi Nickel, Copper and Copper Gold project. When I started in this company back in 2017, it was a postage stamp tenement right in the middle of what you can see up there. It came with historical gold hits, and you can see them there, 17 at 6, 15 at 9. Now, if this was closer to surface, closer towards Ernest Henry, this would be drilled out. This probably would have been a mine. It's too deep up this end of the world. We then set about putting a drill hole in between the 2 to see whether or not there's continuity. Confirmed 6 meters at 12. Again, if it was shallower, this would be a mine. But the market gave us nothing. It says too deep. It's going to be too expensive for a junior to go ahead with it. Think of something different. And that's really where we started to think, well, this strategy of undercover exploration, if we've got this project, what are we going to do with it? We're going to drop it or we're going to go big. And we developed this strategy of undercover, tracing the fault, work out where it's going, and we decided to go big. And now it's 1,800 square kilometers. We've rapidly pursued co-funding grants. We've got our first drill hole paid for, most of it paid for in 2021. We went to look for gold and other materials under there. You can see some of the historic hits there. We ended up with 132 meter intersection of 0.1 nickel. Not the greatest tenor, but not the expectation, not what we went into when we had that grant. We did not think we'd be uncovering 132 meters of nickel in a region that's not even thought of. We've gone on and we filled geophysical data sets on them, getting a better understanding. Now we know there's nickel. How else do we search for nickel? What are the things to look for? We were lucky again, after completing a whole range of geophysical surveys. As I said last week, we got funding. We're going back. We've got 275K in our bank to drill, follow up that higher tenor nickel. And that's where it's going to go. That's our first funded drill campaign the moment we raise more money. Isa North. Isa North's an interesting one. When we started looking at Kenobi and we had our postage stamp and we're saying, well, where's this all going? We actually look wider. And you have a look on the Western Succession, you have Isa North project. It was originally at the time held by Newcrest. I'd like to say we approached them and convinced them of our technical excellence, and they said, sure, you guys run with it. We ended up getting the project for nothing, with Newcrest maintaining a first right of refusal to get back into the project. Great deal for us. We've gone on evaluated their near miss. They did 5,000 meters worth of drilling. Identified a near miss at Narain North. We think that's very prospective. We've done our own geophysical reinterpretation. We think there's a good chance there is a tier one, something in there. We will go back and drill that. That's where our second drill program looks like this year. And you'll see at the top of the project, Red Metal and Oz, as part of their Alliance project, they had some drilling last year. We believe they're going back. They intersected copper. So they're still up there looking for the same things we are. As I said, we get followed where we tend to go in Greenfields region. This is the current tenement map of who else is in the region. You can see that we control the fault or the main structure as our tenements are highlighted. But now we have Fortescue, we have Rio, we have Anglo. We are the fault, so they can't be after the fault. They're looking for something around it. So there's been a reinterpretation of the science up in this region towards possibly sediment-hosted copper mineralization. We're not quite sure, but we've taken the science approach. We're going to look at alternative geophysical programs. First of all, one of them will be MT to understand what our tenement's worth and what the guys next door are looking for. So that's a pretty large staking claim by Fortescue and Anglo up in that region. Third project, we've got co-funding for this one as well. It's South Cobar. Everyone knows the South Cobar Basin and some of the recent discoveries up in that region. We're at the southern end, we have the Achilles project. There's 8 targets across this whole tenement. For us, including the Ural mine, which has historic workings associated with it. For us, Achilles 1 is the most advanced. We've had this tenement as part of a competitive process run through New South Wales. We secured it. We ran a magnetic survey across it. We've done a soil geochem survey. We've secured more funding from this, in this time, Geological Survey of New South Wales to get in our Achilles 1 prospect and test that. Very excited about this one. We would have been there already. Flooding in the region prevented us, unfortunately, for the landholder as well. They lost a bit of ground up there. But we're hopeful to get back as soon as possible and get on ground and spend the government's money. Near-term news flow. So I've been through it already. I will again. Kenobi, we are drilling. Okay, we are all set. We have 275K, the first drill hole. Isa North, we're following up on Newcrest work, but also running an MT survey to try and understand why Fortescue's there, why Rio's there. South Cobar, we have 120 grand. We are out there drilling the moment we can get on ground and get that happening. I haven't mentioned Mundy. Believe it or not, we've got co-funding to go out to Mundy. It's a large conductor that was identified as part of Geoscience Australia. We picked up the ground again as part of the New South Wales mineral allocation areas. We're going to go out there and test it, follow up on Geoscience Australia's work out in the middle of nowhere in Greenfields. And then, of course, we've got Mile Creek and South Cobar, both running geophysical programs by the majors, both ready to drill. In summary, if you're looking for an exciting junior exploration company that has majors follow them, a competent board, science-driven exploration program, then why wouldn't you invest in SER? Thanks.
Thank you, David. Please join me in thanking David. I think if there's a risk to energy transition, it's that we don't find enough copper and nickel. So I think someone doing a bit differently is a real strength. So good luck with that. The next presentation is Critical Resources. The Managing Director, Mr. Alex Cheeseman, will be presenting. So Critical Resources is developing critical mineral projects for a decarbonised future. With a portfolio of prospective hard rock lithium projects in Ontario, Canada, Critical Resources is leading the way to develop raw material projects that will support a North American supply chain. With its flagship Mavis Lake lithium project, Critical Resources is transitioning from explorer to project developer, and there's a clear strategy to unlock the value and potential of Mavis Lake. So please welcome Alex to tell us the story.
Thank you very much, and appreciate everyone coming into Auditorium 2. I'm sure there's something interesting happening in Auditorium 1, but this is definitely the one you want to listen to. Standard disclaimer, it's probably worth noting that this presentation was released on ASX platform last week. It's also available on our website, so feel free to go and dive into the detail at any time you like after the presentation. We're also on booth 36 and we'll be there for a few hours after I speak. A quick company overview. Corporate snapshot. So we're currently sitting at around, as of today, about 4.3 cents, sort of $70 million market cap. Like most lithium companies, it's been a bit of a challenging time over the last few months. Our focus really is to control what we can, so control our costs, focus on doing work, and then obviously we expect the results will come with the success that we've put out to market to date, and also what we expect to put out over the next few months. Shareholder makeup, very retail heavy. We've got a couple of individuals who hold a large portion of the company. Board and management also take up a large portion. So speaking of the board and management, myself, so I grew up in lithium with Aruma, started with that company right at the commencement of construction, took it all the way through to project delivery, commissioning, ramp up, and operational production. My role changed a fair bit during that time, so I started in contracts and procurement, sort of bringing all the pieces together that we needed to build the plant, and then started to move a little bit more into export logistics. It was right as the market sort of started to turn in terms of the commodity price, and marketing became a real effort for the company. So that then consumed all of my time in sort of 2019 and 2020, up into China every 5 to 6 weeks, sort of hustling and wheeling and dealing and getting each individual shipment out. Obviously, if you're not aware, the fate of Aruma, the company went into administration in late 2020, and the asset was sold to Pilgrim Minerals. They've restarted that, and it's now back at nameplate production. The rest of the board, we've got Rob Martin here, a very successful businessman, grown up in mining services, has had a lot of experience running mining and mining related companies, and is a chairman of a number of other companies listed on the ASX and the TSX. John Markovich is a large shareholder, a very high net worth guy his focus has been property development. He brings a different sort of style and viewpoint to the board, which we find really good, having that different dynamic and consideration when we're talking about our forward-looking strategy. I'm really well supported from a management team, both our co-sec and CFO, very capable, very diligent guys. Exploration manager, Troy Gallick, he's a young lad based over in Canada. He's really grown up with grassroots exploration, so a lot of time walking the ground, taking rock chips, logging core. He's done an excellent job with us over the last sort of 12, 14 months since he's been working for us. And our recent addition, Bud Dixon, he's our First Nations and Community Liaison Officer. He's an Atikokan local. He's been involved in mining and First Nations liaison the last 17 years in Northern Ontario. Has an excellent standing and respect and regard for the First Nations communities. We have 5 First Nations communities that we work with on Mavis Lake, and getting that relationship right is key for us going forward. So as mentioned before, the company, we've got a lithium portfolio in Ontario, Mavis Lake, Clayton Whitnoon Lake and Graphic Lake. Don't really talk too much to the other 2 projects because Mavis Lake really is consuming 98% of our effort, probably 99% of our resources. The other projects, they do have potential. We haven't done any work on Clayton Whitnoon. We staked that, so it was a low cost entry point. Graphic Lake was acquired for $100,000. We've done a little bit of exploration work. We'll probably do a summertime rock chip, mapping program when the snow melts. But again, Mavis Lake is where all the effort will be. We only acquired the project in January last year, mobilised the drill rig in April, and have been drilling since. So the slide's a little bit outdated now. We're probably at about 31,000 metres. Mavis Lake itself, and I'll go into this in more detail, but the location is key on a number of reasons, not only in terms of the activity and excitement that's happening in Canada and North American sort of EV and supply chain investment. But then if we look at an operational level, some of the things that are on our doorstep by being so close to a township of Dryden. Dryden's about 10,000 people, brings a lot of benefits to us. So our strategy, one of the things that we're really trying to do, and as we said at the start, is we're not an exploration company. We are pivoting to be a development company. We continue exploring. We will have a maiden resource out probably by the end of this month. And then we move into continued resource growth and infill drilling. So we're not out looking for something. We found it. We're now proving up the commercials and economics around the project. And we think they're going to stack up very, very well. The sort of terms we're using though to keep it simple, the right place, the right project and the right pathway. But there's multiple subheadings to all those points. So in terms of place, as I mentioned, being in Canada where so many ASX listed companies are having such great exploration success, it's typically underexplored, particularly for battery metals. So the place, the location in Northwest Ontario is great. The local communities are very supportive. There's a lot of mining operations in Northwest Ontario, but typically smaller, gold, nickel, precious metals. They see themselves as mining people and they're very supportive of this sort of clean energy minerals movement and critical minerals focus that the government is pushing for. The other interesting thing is a big part of the industry in Northwest Ontario is forestry. Forestry is slowly starting to decline, so they're actively looking for other industries to soak up workforce, a great opportunity for us. Obviously, the market and the market environment in North America is being invested into at an unprecedented level from the auto manufacturers and the battery manufacturers. We haven't seen that same level of investment into the raw material side, but that could be said for any jurisdiction at the moment where the investment in raw materials projects has not kept up with the investment further downstream. In terms of the project, again, we're stuck here with the geology is what it is. We're quite blessed that we have released some phenomenal intercepts over the last 9 months. Anything ranging from sort of 15 to 27 metres, grades ranging consistently from sort of 1.2 to up to 4.3%. So we have some real high grade hits throughout the project. Obviously, we're conscious of the fact that we need to have ultimately come out with a resource with a 1% lithium oxide grade as a minimum for us to make that a real project and something that we can actually then turn into a nice, clean, sellable concentrate. The right pathway is again sort of dual-headed. We have a clear pathway of how we take this project forward. Having been involved in delivering one of these projects before, we know what needs to be done to take it from exploration through to production. Not saying I'm doing that alone, but I'm able to reach out to all the people that I've worked with before and taken all those lessons learned from developing these projects in the Pilbara and apply that to what we're doing in Mavis Lake. And that's giving us great benefit and insight. People being able to take all the things that, the things they did well and the things that they didn't do well and learn on that and apply that to this project. Pathway to market is also the other one. I've mentioned it already and I'll keep saying it time and time again. We are on the doorstep of the Trans-Canada Highway. There's a national rail network that runs parallel with the highway. That runs to Winnipeg, which then goes straight down into North America. We also have access directly to Thunder Bay, Deepwater Port, and from Thunder Bay, we can go anywhere in the world. Obviously, it's a very quick transit through Lake Superior to Michigan, but I've also priced the option for us to send cargo from Thunder Bay to Corpus Christi, where Tesla's building their refinery, to Teesside in the UK, where there's a number of groups talking about building lithium refineries, and also up to Nanjing and some of the Yangtze River ports in China, where all of the world's current full capacity lithium refineries currently operating. Market update. I won't talk to this in too much detail. We've had Joe Lowry here. His insights in the market are way better than anything I can give you. I'd just say that I agree with what Joe said. Supply demand there is a supply deficit and it's structural, and we're in it now for at least the rest of this decade into 2030. And that deficit is predicated on all the known projects that are being mapped coming to capacity on time and within budget. And again, the industry doesn't have a great success rate of doing that. And we're also talking, particularly from a project's perspective, they're now in jurisdictions where they haven't been done before. So they aren't without challenges. They're doing a deep dive now into Mavis Lake. So the project really can be surmised by this single slide, and I'll go into each one in a little bit more detail. So from a geology perspective, like as I said, over 31,000 metres of drilling since April last year. Drill rig's still spinning now. I'm getting daily updates from our exploration manager. It's doing really well. It's performing very well. As I mentioned, some really good assays. It's the consistency of the high grade, as in 1% plus, that really excites me. You know, we're thinking about what does this look like when we actually go to mine it? What's our feed grade going to be off the ROM? In terms of growth, I think this is probably something we can't really overstate enough. We've drilled 1% of our land holding at Mavis Lake. We acquired another property late last year, Gullwing Top Lake, and then we pegged all the ground in between it. So it's now one contiguous block of land that we refer to simply as the Mavis Lake project. We've got at Mavis Lake, the original site, we've still got multiple mapped spodumene bearing outcrops that we've never drill tested. We're just waiting to get into them. And then at Gullwing and Top Lake, we've got over 6 kilometres of strike that the vendors had confirmed with mapping and rock chip sampling of lithium mineralisation. As soon as the snow melts, which is starting to warm up a little bit at the moment in Canada, we've got a team ready to go on the field. We'll be doing a comprehensive mapping rock chip sampling exercise along that 6 kilometres of strike in order to generate some high confidence drilling targets. I expect that we will be drilling at Gullwing Top Lake as well as at Mavis Lake at the back end of this year. Metallurgy, we released the outcomes of our scoping study met test work results on Monday. Fantastic results. So very simple DMS or HLS flow sheet, made a nice clean concentrate. We added flotation just to look at the options to really increase recoveries. We made anything ranging from a 5.9 to 6.4% concentrate, really low iron oxide in both the coarse and the floats, which was surprising to see. And ultimately recoveries really stack up to be a commercially viable project, ranging from high 70s to the mid 80s. What we put into the scoping study, I'm not sure, but we'll make sure that it's rooted in real world logic and what we can achieve. Infrastructure, again, I'll say it time and time again, a fantastic location. The township of Dryden, we lean on that right now. And at this phase of our company's life, our indirect cost to be drilling is almost negligible. Our drillers and geos are staying in an Airbnb house at $30 a day. They go to the shopping centre, buy their groceries, cook for themselves. No remote camp, no remote logistics. You know, we're not helicoptering in drill rigs. They're driving in and out from major towns of Winnipeg or Thunder Bay. It's a fantastic location in terms of savings to us. I expect our scoping study will again highlight both CapEx and OpEx savings when we look at developing this project. Conscious that I'm running out of time pretty quickly, I will go through this fairly fast. In terms of defining a maiden resource, I expect that the maiden resource will be released to the market by the end of this month. We've just had a conversation with a resource geologist this morning. We had intended to come out by the end of Q1. Unfortunately, assay turnaround times in Canada have been very slow. As a company, we've pushed and pushed and tried to accelerate things as fast as we could. But we wanted to give the maiden resource that chance of being as best as it can be. But noting that it's exactly that, it is a maiden resource. The drill rig keeps spinning and we will continue to grow and expand on that resource over the next 3 to 4 years in parallel with our studies. Development studies, I spoke to the met test work, but it's not just that. We also have commenced our environmental baseline studies. Again, permitting is something that has plagued most North American lithium projects over the last few years. So we're learning from other people's mistakes and getting stuck into it early. We had a very small opportunity late last year to get a team out on the ground before the snow came in and map the local environment. That work's been done. They did desktop work over the winter. We now have a forward work program of everything we need to do from a monitoring and reporting point of view in order to continue to move the project forward from a permitting perspective. The scoping study, we announced that to the market early this year. We appointed Wave Engineering, very reputable from a point of lithium process knowledge. They've also done a number of recent studies in Canada, so have some currency and relevance there. The scoping study is due to be released in the middle of the year, and everything is on track at the moment to get that done. Project location, I think I've sort of gone on about it enough. The photo, probably the one that tells the story here. I ran this by one of my colleagues. He said, you've got the core out of focus. It should be in the middle. I'm not actually trying to show you the core. I'm trying to show you that the core shack, which is 5 minutes from where we're drilling, there's a sealed road across there and there's street lights because it's in the town. Again, we're right on the doorstep of a township that provides hospitals, schools. It's a desirable place where people will actually move to for meaningful work. So again, very blessed with the township of Dryden. Exploration potential and growth, again, lots of work that we can do. The two photos, basically every time we go to site, myself and the chairman, we seem to either slip over a rock or bottom out on the car and hit something and have a bit of a joke and say, hey, imagine if it's pegmatite. And then the geos look at it, they go, it is. They go, oh, imagine if it's got spodumene in it. They go, oh, actually it does. So it's just a funny little story. Every time we go there, we literally seem to be tripping over the stuff. So there's so much potential in Canada. We're not alone in that case. You know, we're seeing great success from a lot of the Canadian explorers. Probably the Australians, when they get into Canada and apply that systematic and rigorous approach to exploration, that's where we're seeing the results. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we're going to keep doing. So building on momentum, it's been an incredibly busy, 12 months since we started work on Mavis Lake, and it's not going to stop. In fact, we're just going to add more work to it. So we will continue to drill at Mavis Lake. As I said, plenty of targets that we haven't touched. We then start exploring at Gullwing and Top Lake as well. Again, if we can generate high confidence drilling targets, we'll be into it at the back end of the year. All of our studies work is going to be done in parallel. So met test work completed. As we move into the next phase of studies, we obviously really want to dive into the met test work and make sure that we get that right. That was a key learning of mine from Altura before. Extensive met test work program will ensure when you turn the plant on day one, particularly for DMS, you're catching concentrate that's on spec straight away. All the baseline environmental work has to happen. You know, that is a framework that we have to work within. So we start early, which we've already done. Scoping study, as I said, is ongoing at the moment. Will be released to the market middle of the year. And then the board will obviously have to make a decision on where we go to. Do we move into pre-FS? I think highly likely, but I'm not going to assume the results of the outcomes of the scoping study just yet. But I do think there's a great opportunity here with this project. That's probably it for me.
Perfect.
And I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. And, location is everything in resources. So being in Canada, close to infrastructure, gives them a good head start. So all the best with the project. We've got one more presentation in this session, and it's from Power Minerals. The presenter will be Mr. Mina Habib, who's the Managing Director. So Power Minerals is focused on the exploration and development of its core asset, the Salto lithium project, in the prolific lithium triangle in Argentina, into a future lithium producing operation to provide high quality lithium for the massive and emerging EV battery market. Please welcome Mr. Habib.
Thanks very much. And we've got a late inclusion.
Right,
Today,
okay.
which I'll make the intro shortly. Thanks for sticking around. You know, it's much appreciated. So my name's Mina Habib, Managing Director of Power Minerals, and I can assure you they've saved the best to last. And alongside me is David Turvey, Non-Executive Director, GEO of 35 years. Come to think of it, that's almost as long as I've been on this planet, but a wealth of knowledge and experience to the company. So you might be thinking, what is Power Minerals about? So Power Minerals is a new name in battery minerals and technology, and that talks to the minerals that we're exploring, being lithium brine in Argentina, nickel, copper, cobalt in our own backyards, in the Musgrave in South Australia. We're very bullish on the EV sector, and we heard it from Joe earlier on. I think what that does, it positions us not only in the short term for success and unlocking value for our shareholders, but it also presents a long-term opportunity for us to continue to unlock that value in time. So when you look at the minerals that we're assessing, lithium, copper, cobalt, we're in the right sector. And I think that is really important for our shareholders. So the company overview, a very nice capital structure, 72 million shares on issue. That's an important thing that I look at as an investor and as a director. Our market cap's roughly 31 million, and we'll talk about that comparison in terms of our lithium peers. Healthy cash balance at the moment, and our top shareholders very supportive, and they comprise of nearly 40%. So an experienced board, a board with excellent synergy, diverse skill set. We've recently we brought in Dr. Nick Lindsay, who was worked closely with Lake Resources. So this team is committed to unlocking value for shareholders. That's the first thing that we talk about at most of our board meetings. So how can we improve and how can we make money for our shareholders? Flagship project, Salta Lithium Brine project in Argentina. So strategic asset for us in the world-renowned lithium triangle. You guys have probably heard from some of our peers, and we're going to talk about the comparisons and the value for investors that are looking to enter this sector. Okay, I want to bring your attention here. I'm a little bit short, but I'll still point. So for us, you look at our individual projects and where located. So if we look at the Rincon Cellar, our peers there are Rio Tinto. And there's also to the right, Aruma Minerals. So Aruma will soon be producing 2,000 tons LCE. Their market cap is roughly 600 million at the moment. We're looking at putting a 2,000 ton plant at Rincon. So we've got our drilling, which should commence any day now. So the current resource there is 60,000 tons. So it's very small, but we're looking to expand that significantly. And in the process, and not to waste time, we've started our PEA study. So we're commercially, how's that 2,000 ton, what that's going to mean for us in terms of the numbers. We've just finished completing, we just finished completing in Kawasi, 1,200 meter campaign, 4 holes, which we define as a very successful campaign, and we should see a significant upgrade in the resource in the near future. We're next door to Ganfeng, so we've signed an NDA with Ganfeng, very friendly neighbor. They'll be setting up a large plant in Salta, so it's always an option for us. We move across to Positos. So Positos drilling will commence right after Rincon. And once again, this could be a 5,000 to 10,000 ton project for us. And we've, based on the geophysics and what we're seeing is there's the water, there's the infrastructure, you've got a gas pipeline. So it ticks plenty of boxes for us. And in terms of the railway that moves to Chile, so we can then export out to our offtake partners. And then we've got Pula. Pula is actually where we're getting most of our current resource. Our current resource is 239,000 tons of LCE equivalent, and it's coming from the small salar. So you look at that opportunity with our back-to-back drilling, and you can see some of the value and how we're going to re-rate in comparison to our peers. And I do want to highlight a very important. That's too quick. When you've seen the other. There we go. So we've seen the other, we're not the biggest resource in the one region, but we're going to be smaller. We're going to have smaller projects, so 2,000 to 5,000 ton, maybe more at Positos. And what that means is a faster pathway to development. So when you go to your local communities, when you go to your council, you're not having much impact on terms of getting to production. We're not saying we're going to be producing, 30, 40,000 tons. It's a small operation, and they like that. Because once again, you look at DLE and the need for water and electricity. And when you've got a smaller operation, it works and it's much easier process. So what that means for our shareholders is a quicker pathway to development. And we know how the market reacted to Aruma and their 2,000 ton operation. So we're very optimistic, very bullish on the future of our Salta Lithium Brine project. So this is just a small little video. It'll give you guys a snapshot into the recent drilling. I think it's really important to visualize. There's a lot of hard work that goes into the background. So it's a nice little clip. big hello from our team there in Argentina. So just quickly, in terms of our pathway moving forward, we have an MOU with Sunresen for a direct lithium extraction facility. The reason why we partnered with Sunresen is they've got plants in operations, proven technology. I'll be visiting their projects in Beijing in the coming days. So it's a really exciting opportunity. We've sent them our brine, we've tested it, they've come back, they've given us quotes on a DLE project for each of our salars. So we look forward to advancing that and talking to the market and becoming a binding agreement. Got a really good relationship with them. We've got potential offtake partners that are going to be there with us having a look. So it's an important part of our business, and I think we've made the right decision in partnering with Sunresen. I won't talk through this process. David might have a quick.
I'll interrupt here. We are at stand 8. If you do want to talk about DLE and aren't a believer, I will attempt to explain why it works and how it works and why we went with Sunresen, because they've done at least 20 years of R&D and they've built 7 plants that are in operation. They know the cost structures. The Western world do not. So if you want to learn about some cost structures of DLE and its efficiency, come and talk.
And lastly, we have an MOU with Xiamen Jianghu, second largest logistics company in China. And what that means for us, potential offtake, logistics support, in-country support. So getting the brine obviously out of the ground with the financial support, but also getting the brine across to China. These guys are providers for big car manufacturers such as Volkswagen. So they'll be there, over the next couple of days, talking to Sunresen as well. And it's a really good synergy and collaboration by the teams involved. David told me the reason why I came to Power Minerals was for the Musgraves. He gets very excited and he gave me a bit of a push along before. So I'm going to hand over the mic to him and he'll give you guys a good rundown.
Yeah, Men is fairly new at this game. He's younger, I'm a bit older. And it is the reason why I joined the board. So you need to press the slides now, Mena, for me, because I don't have the button. It's a very, very large land holding in the northern part of South Australia. The white rocks are a large sequence of rocks. You can see the scale. That's 500 or 600 kilometres long. We've had these tenements for over 10 years in this company. Not much money has been spent in the last 8 years because there has been a moratorium on exploration in this part of the world. It is Indigenous land. Draw your attention to the Western Australian side of the border where the stars are there. They are deposits that were discovered from the 70s to now. 2 of those deposits, Nebo, Babel and Succoth, one being nickel dominant, Succoth being copper dominant over 2%, are one of the reasons why BHP has taken over Oz Minerals. This is what we call fertile country. On the Australian side of the border, we have a very, very large land holding and have drilled over 25 kilometres of holes. We do have a joint venture with Rio Tinto on that pale yellow-green area to the north called Pink Slipper. We are 51% of that joint venture and we are operator of that joint venture. The reason why, that is an electromagnetic conductor target. That red blob in the middle looks like a tooth. I've been around for a while. That's the best I've seen in the world as a conductor. You ask the question, why is Rio partnering a junior player and we are 51%? Because that will register on Rio's balance sheet. So when we drill a hole in that shortly after we get an agreement with the Indigenous community, and by the way, we've had 8 or so of these with them before. They know us well, the Indigenous. That's one reason why Rio paired with us. They saw us explore. They saw us explore well. We have been invited back by the community. We've been pulled back by Rio to say, drill a hole now because we're open for business. That is the best target. Nickel, probably, yeah, I'll go as far as saying in the world at the moment, exploration. So stay tuned for the news on that. We just need to get on the ground and put a diamond drill rig there. Personally, I drilled 4 holes on it, 400 metres apart, 100 metres depth and 300 metres depth pierce points, and you could probably put a resource on that. These are layered intrusive complexes. You've seen the Chalice story. Just think 2 or 3 times better. Where I'd go with that one. Not over ramping it at all, but we can talk technically about how good that tooth is. We don't want it to be a sawtooth. We want it to be one of the most attractive targets in the world. It's a beauty.
Excellent. And I think we're nearly there. So if I summarize investors today, I'd say that you've got a team here that's dedicating to unlocking value. There's so much value in the ground, both in Argentina and our own soil. And rest assured that, you know, we're committed to working hard. We've drilled 3 projects across 2 countries in 12 months. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a team effort, and you only continue to see further growth, exploration, and yeah, stay tuned. Feel free to reach out to me anytime and come say hello at the booth or grab a drink later. Thank you very much.
Do employ you to come to the booth. I will go and sit there now. You know, I don't need to eat lunch. I'm already big enough. So thanks for waiting to the end of this. It is the late night shift, but we do have the best booth location in here. So we are connected to the organisation. We get a late slot, we get the best booth.
Cool.
Do the business by coming past the booth. Thanks, guys.
Please join me in thanking Mina and David. Thank you. And all the best. I think we'll all be looking out for those drill results from the copper nickel project, and also seeing the development of the Argentinian lithium. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you everyone for this morning.